There he stood, with his hat in his hand and the wind in his hair, and looked down upon the 3 hobbits that had been laid there on their backs, upon the grass at the west side of the mound. Raising his right hand, he said in a clear and commanding voice, "Wake now, my merry lads, wake and hear me calling. Warm now be heart and limb, the cold stone is fallen. Dark door is standing wide, dead hand is broken. Night under night is flown, and the gate is open." To Frodo's great joy, the hobbits stirred, stretched their arms and rubbed their eyes, and suddenly sprang up. They looked about in amazement at Frodo, and then at Sam, standing large as life on the barrow top above them, and then at themselves in their white rags, crowned and belted with pale gold, and jingling with trinkets. What's up there, guys? Hey.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going? Welcome to episode 18 of Keep on Tolkien, your number one podcast for Tolkien stuff.
And we are excited about this one today, guys.
We're stoked about this episode. We've been talking about this one for a while. Definitely since, season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is something we just talk about all the time, and we decided to make it in and do an episode.
Yeah, it might end up being a couple. We'll see how this trails out. But
right. So, basically, it's a list. We came up with a list of 30 characters that were shafted by the Peter Jackson trilogy.
We're talking the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. As much as we love them, we just wanted to go over a list of peoples and characters that either didn't get justice in the movies because, they're movies. They have to cut some things out. This is a massive novel trilogy.
Right. Which is understandable. I think Peter Jackson's trilogy is about as good as it could have gotten.
Yeah.
For a Hollywood production.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Not going to lie. It's a shit.
Like we've said before, it's a major part of both of our childhoods.
Right. And to reiterate, we do hate the Hobbit trilogy quite a bit.
Just disclaimer.
We do hate the Hobbit trilogy quite a bit. And we've done episodes about that. Go look at them. Episodes 1, 2, 3. And
episodes 1, 2, and 3. That's how we started this.
We literally started a podcast to bitch about the Hobbit movies.
That's how it all started.
Yeah. So we do love the Peter Jackson trilogy. We watch it all the time. But yeah, there were some characters that were just cut out of the books that we really love. We, a lot of cool side characters that we like.
And after we really started getting into some of the first age and older lore from Tolkien's world, the Silmarillion stuff, we thought it'd be fun to go through and touch on a bunch of these characters that got either cut out or just in general shafted in the movies.
Yeah. Should we get into it? Let's just get right into it.
Let's just dive right in, guys.
Dive right in.
Here we go. Oh, first and foremost.
So we're going to start. These are kind of a disclaimer. This list kind of goes in order of the movies.
Sort of,
but
yeah.
Not quite. So we're going to start out with some characters from the prologue.
Right off the bat, guys. The first 2 characters that we want to talk about that got shafted in the movies.
Gil-galad and Círdan. And Gil-galad and Círdan are 2 very important characters from the first and through the second ages.
Very important. They're 2 very important characters that kind of take the story of the history of Middle-earth into the Third Age and the Lord of the Rings.
So they fought in the Last Alliance, which is the battle that we see in the prologue. But Gil-galad is shown stabbing somebody in the extended edition.
Yeah, he's just shown briefly, just
he's
going...
Yeah,
he stabs down onto someone off screen and puts his face in the air and dramatically yells. Ah!
And that's Aiglos, the spear.
I didn't even know it had a name.
Aiglos, yeah, it's famous. Yeah, apparently watching Gil-galad wield that thing was it's a glaive. It's kind of like halfway between a spear and a sword.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
we should have had the spear on the list.
Yeah, Aiglos the spear got fucked. So Gil-galad was the last High King of the Noldor, being the son of Fingon, who's the eldest son of Fingolfin. And so Gil-galad is killed in the Siege of Barad-dûr, which we see Gil-galad there, but they don't show him getting killed.
Yeah, and that's a pretty major point. He's the last High King of the Noldor.
Right, yeah.
And this is where he dies.
Yeah. And the reason why Gil-galad and Círdan are important characters that I think they should have mentioned or at least shown, because they're two of the three ring bearers.
Yeah. Yeah, we get to know a lot about the ring bearers in The Lord of the Rings. It gets into that a lot. We get to see, Gandalf's a ring bearer. We don't know that till the end.
We don't know that yet. Well, at this point, he's not. It's Círdan's ring that is later going to
I suppose.
Gandalf. Yeah.
But we get to meet Gandalf, then Galadriel, Elrond, and then Bilbo, Frodo.
Yeah, and that actually brings us to our next point. When Gil-galad is killed, his ring is given to, what's his name? We just said it. Elrond. Our buddy Elrond. Because Elrond was the herald of Gil-galad. He kind of he was like the bannerman, essentially. Yeah, so, okay. Let's call it, Joel. Círdan and Gil-galad. Shafted. Yeah,
Círdan was also in the battle in the prologue, or he was supposed to be, because he was Gil-galad's other number two. It was him and Elrond, his left and right hand.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of Elrond, didn't see any Círdan.
No Círdan. Except they show him in the end of the trilogy. They show a man standing over there that has no beard.
Right. No, he has no beard. They show him briefly in the beginning of the prologue, actually, when it shows three elves getting the 3 rings of power.
Yeah, he's the furthest back and most out of focus.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Number 2.
We have Anarion, son of Isildur.
So this is something that bothers me a little bit about the movies, but it's for the sake of uncomplicating things. In that they don't really explain that Elendil, when they set up the kingdoms of the Dunedain, was the High King, but his sons were ruling the northern and the southern kingdom. And Anarion is the first king of Gondor. He's I believe he's the younger son of Elendil. Isildur's older, I believe.
I think so.
He's actually, he's a pretty important character. His line was eventually ended with Eänir, who was captured and killed by the Witch King in 2050 of the Third Age, and he's the last king.
So is Eänir his direct son, or is it a little further down?
It's further down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a ways down the line. But he is taken captive into Minas Morgul, and they never see him again. We're not actually sure if he's dead or not. I mean, they probably did God knows what to him.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, he never came back. He went there to challenge the Witch King in single combat. Yeah.
Didn't go well, apparently.
Didn't go well. But that, the ending of Anarion's line paved the way for Aragorn, who's the line of Isildur, the older son of Elendil.
That's the northern kingdom.
The northern
technically.
Kingdom of Arnor, yeah. So because the line of Anarion failed in the south, Aragorn, who is the line of Isildur,
in the north
was able to claim kingship over both.
So technically, he should have come down and taken over rather than the lords of Gondor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, which I don't know why, because the Dunedain chieftain is technically the king of the northern kingdom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, so Anarion was killed in the last alliance as well. And Isildur, after the battle, actually planted the tree, the white tree of Gondor in Minas Anor, which is later called Minas Tirith. Anor being named after Anarion, actually. And he plants it in the courtyard to honor his brother before heading back to the northern kingdom. But if you know anything about the story of Isildur, you know that he never got to the northern kingdom. Isildur and his eldest sons were killed in the Gladden Fields. Their names were Elendur, Eratan, and Cirion. And Valandil, who was the youngest son, stayed in Rivendell, and that's Aragorn's ancestor.
Yeah, that's where Aragorn's line comes from.
From the line of Valandil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Anarion is never... Why did he get shafted? Because he's never even mentioned, not even by name, except once in the extended edition. Denethor mentions in one of his crazy speeches as he's like about to burn Faramir. He says something about the line of Anarion. That's it. It's the only mention. And I think one of the reasons it's important to know is just because the difference between the northern and southern kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
Which they didn't really explain a whole lot in the movie, but obviously that's pretty fucking complicated.
Right.
Like, it's the king and he comes back, essentially. It's, you know what I mean? It's a Hollywood movie.
Well, that kind of takes us into the next character, too.
Yeah.
Elendil himself.
Elendil himself, father of Isildur and Anarion.
High King of the Dunedain.
Mm-hmm. He's the wielder of Narsil, who was made by Telkar, the dwarf.
Yeah, we've name-dropped Telkar a couple times in the past. Telkar is a famous first-age dwarf from Nargrad, who's made a couple things. He made Narsil, the sword that eventually went on to be sword of the kings.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made the dragon helm of Dorloman, and
Mhm.
he made what's the name of the dagger?
Angrist.
Angrist, the dagger that Baron uses to pry a Silmaril from Morgoth's iron crown. That's some history for you.
Yeah. And we and Joel were actually talking. We were joking about this the other day because Telkar's supposed to be like the greatest smith, like one of the greatest smiths of all
He's
time.
one of the greatest dwarven smiths, yeah.
Yeah, and his
yet,
shit always breaks.
It seems, yeah, shit breaks all the time. Narsil breaks.
Yeah, Narsil breaks when you need it most, when you're trying to fight Sauron. And the fucking Angrist breaks right as it's about to
pry the second Silmaril. There's
out.
3 and they only get 1 because the dagger breaks when he's trying to start to get the second one. They have to leave. And it's that very broken shard that also smacks Morgoth in the face and starts to wake
him up.
Yeah.
And so the shards of Narsil are actually used for something pretty important too. The hilt shard is what Isildur uses to cut the ring from Sauron's hand and take it for his own. And so Elendil in the movie, we see him in the movie. They show him like once, and he's killed by Sauron
pretty quick,
like in a single blow.
Yeah,
like,
he's just like one swoop, and he's like, and he hits a wall, and he's dead.
Not the epic battle that should have happened between a Lord of the Dunedain.
No, because his sword broke because he was fighting so hard, wasn't it?
Right, yeah, it broke because that's like the only reason why Sauron was able to kill him essentially was because his sword had fucking broken. Like it became worthless, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And often, if you study, anything about like sword fighting, often a sword fight will end in one sword breaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's. Especially back in the day, that's why, swords broke all the time. And then you're fucked when your sword breaks, essentially. So, yeah, he's shafted. He's a shafted character because he's depicted as an pretty old, fucking frail old man.
Right. He's also another very important character from the prologue scene that didn't get any justice. I mean, he was the High King of the Dunedain, and he was the one of the people more or less leading the last alliance.
Yeah, for sure. And they didn't really do him justice, in my opinion. They showed him for a second. He got killed. I understand that they probably didn't want to have a huge, gigantic fight scene in the prologue. But I don't know, do it in a flashback or something. You know what I mean?
It would have been cool. It's some pretty heavy history there.
Yeah. Let's call it Elendil.
Shafted.
All right, now we're going to get into some of our friends from the Shire. Who do we got next, Joel?
Next, we've got our friend from the Shire who got super shafted.
He
wasn't even name dropped or anything. He was just gone. We're talking about Fredegar, that is Fatty Bulger.
Fatty Bulger.
He's a real stand-up guy. He's one of the close friends of Merry, Pippin, Sam, and Frodo. Like, he's the only other one that was in on their whole scheme to get Frodo out of the Shire.
Yeah, because there's the chapter Conspiracy Unmasked when Frodo finds out that all his friends knew about the ring, and they were planning on leaving with him, and like all this, like it was essentially this big conspiracy. Fatty Bulger was in on it, man.
Yeah,
he knew about the ring. He knew about
part
Bilbo.
of it. He helped them a lot with moving Frodo to Crick Hollow and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, he helped them move all his shit to, because that was probably one of the reasons why he's cut out of the movie is because they cut out that whole storyline.
I suppose, yeah, they didn't even do the whole move to Crick Hollow thing. It was just get out of Bag End.
Get out of the Shire. So Frodo, in the book, he moves to Crick Hollow to kind of make it look like he's just moving to another part of the Shire, when really he's about to take off.
For a good long while.
And Fatty Bulger is a big part of that because he stays in Frodo's new house in Crick Hollow and kind of makes it up like, people ask, oh, where's Frodo? Oh, he just left. You missed him.
Yeah, he covers for him.
Yeah, he covers for him.
Yeah, he's a key player in covering for Frodo and his alibi. And not only that, but in the part in the book where they go into the old forest, which isn't even in the movie at all.
Yeah, not in the movie at all. Old forest,
shafted the forest. Fatty stays behind at Crick Hollow, and he actually is one of the first people to have the Wraiths come after him. Because at this point, the Wraiths are in the Shire.
Yeah, he has a run-in with the Nazgul.
And I think it's the night that they leave, right? The night that they leave to go into the old forest, the Wraiths come to his house at Crick Hollow. And I don't remember exactly what it is that Fatty does, but he does something to distract them, and he runs out the back door and raises the alarm and gets the
He raised the horn call of Buckland, which is like a battle horn.
Yeah, they haven't used it in a really, really long time.
Yeah, so all these hobbits come out like sleepy as fuck, like, what's going on here? Is a battle horn. Yeah, and just because these fucking crazy ass black riders were attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, so like, as a lot of people, it's a frequent topic of conversation among Star Wars nerds that the guy that didn't shoot the space capsule in the very beginning of the first movie is the most important character because he could have blew up the plans for the Death Star right there.
Yeah, he would have killed C-3PO and R2-D2 on that escape shuttle, but he's like, no, wait, hold your fire.
There's nobody alive in
There's
there.
no life forms.
Yeah. So that guy, him not shooting the capsule is an important thing. And very similar with Frediger Fatty Bulger is that if he didn't delay the Nazgul by scaring them off and making them essentially think that Frodo was still staying there, they would have caught up to Frodo before they got even to the Old Forest, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a pretty key player in delaying the Nazgul, even for a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. And he's also pretty key in the part that is completely, the chapter that is completely cut from the movie, The Scouring of the Shire. And he's actually captured because he leads like a group of like resistance fighters.
Yeah.
And they lock him up and they starve him. And then after that, nobody ever calls him Fatty anymore.
Probably a sensitive subject.
But yeah, he's shafted because he's completely cut out of the movie. And except for the extended edition, apparently, according to the internet, there's a scene where Bilbo mentions him by name. But
when he's doing the toasts at the party?
Not when he's doing the toast at the party, when he's like greeting people one by one in the extended edition.
Oh.
You know the part I'm talking about? But yeah, it's also suspected that the guy that raises his glass, his mug when
for
they
the
say
Bulgers.
For Bulgers, a lot of people say that's Fatty Bulger. But really, in my book, he was just cut out of the movie.
Right.
So
we never got to figure out who he was, if he was anyone, so
let's call it Fatty Bulger. Shafted. Got the shaft.
All right, next we've got kind of a group. We've got the Sackville Bagginses.
Oh, fuck these people.
Good old Lobelia and her son Lotho.
Mm.
Who is her husband?
I can't remember the husband's name. He's dead, isn't it? Just her and Lotho? Anyway, the Sackville Bagginses are a group of Bagginses.
Yeah.
And we put them in as like one character, but
they kind of get shafted in general. We don't see or hear much of them.
Right. We see them a little bit in the extended edition. Bilbo's all like, Sackville Bagginses, I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah, and that's about it.
But
ultimately, they're the ones that have been gunning for Bag End for so long.
Yeah, they hate Frodo because Frodo was named the heir of Bilbo's fortune, like adopted heir.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to get all Bilbo's shit when he died.
And it was a lot of shit.
So they're very mad. So in the book, Frodo sells Bag End to them before he leaves Hobbiton. And in the Scouring of the Shire, which we mentioned earlier, the chapter that's not actually in the movie, Lotho is he becomes like a warlord essentially of the Shire, and he's later murdered by Grima Wormtongue. Sauron makes him do it.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, he's shafted because he's like almost completely cut out of the movie, except for the one time we mentioned that they go Sackville Bagginses.
Yeah. Another brief little mention. They did pretty good in the overall trilogy, like throwing in some brief mentions of people that they had to cut out. But
little nods, like for nerds, right?
Right.
Like, hey, that's Fatty Bulger over there.
Let's see. Oh, another big character from the Shire that cut out. Good old Gaffer.
Gaffer Gamgee. Christian name. Not Christian, they're not Christian. First name, Hamfast. Hamfast Gamgee. He's the father of Samwise Gamgee. He was Bilbo's gardener and loyal servant for many years. He actually encountered a Nazgul as well.
Yeah, he was another big player. He totally told the Nazgul to basically fuck off.
Yeah, he's always just like if people are bothering Frodo, you got to go through Gaffer first, you know? Like if you're creeping around Bag End, he'll be like, "Hey, what are you doing up there? You know, get out of there. Frodo doesn't want you around."
Yeah, Gaffer is one of the few friends in the Shire that the Bagginses really had, Bilbo and Frodo. Everyone else thought them kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
But Gaffer always defended them and always told them that they were good folks.
Yeah, everyone was always thinking, they're weird. Gaffer's like, yeah, they're cool. They're good shit. But yeah, he sent ring wraiths the wrong way, essentially, when they came looking for Frodo. Isn't he the one that they say they're going to pay him with gold, too? When they're like, we'll come back with gold.
Oh, yeah. And he's just, that's when he's.
Then that's when he gets mad and he's just like, oh, no, fuck out of here.
Yeah, get out of here.
We'll come back with gold. The gaffer's just like,
Get on, get.
go on, get. All right. Ham fast, Gaffer Gamgee.
Shafted.
Here we go. Next character. Who we got, Joel?
We got Farmer Maggot.
Farmer Maggot.
Who was briefly mentioned, and we get to see his scythe.
Yeah.
But other than that,
get out of my crops.
yeah, totally not justified because he's way better than that. Like, he's not just some angry dude. He helps him out a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm. And apparently, as I was doing the research on these guys, he is allegedly the character that the Nazgul read up and go, Shia Baggins, and he's like, ain't no Bagginses around here.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
off in Hobbiton. That's supposed to be Farmer Maggot.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said, right?
No.
That's supposed to be fucking Farmer Maggot.
No.
Because he's got the dogs too, remember? Farmer Maggot,
yeah, I suppose.
he lives in the East Farthing, which is right on the border of the Old Forest. And he's got 3 dogs, which is
big
weird
old
for
dogs.
hobbits. Big old dogs. Wolf, Fang, and Grip. And he's actually a pretty important character because he helps Frodo, Sam, and Pippin on their way to the Old Forest.
Yeah, as soon as they start having trouble with the riders, they sort of run off through the woods and get lost, and they pop out at good old Farmer Maggot's place.
Maggot's field. It's funny, too, because Frodo hasn't been back there since he was a kid because he used to steal mushrooms.
Yeah.
And one time, Farmer Maggot caught him and beat him, like caned him on the ass with a cane. And that was the last time.
That was the last time we saw Farmer Maggot.
Until now, yeah.
But the Maggots were real welcoming, and they like took him in and gave him dinner and gave him a ride down to the ferry on a wagon and like.
Dude, one of my favorite parts is when they're leaving. Remember, it's like Frodo. His wife gave him that basket.
Yeah,
and
Farmer Maggot's wife gave him a basket.
And he's like starts smelling it, and Frodo just starts laughing because he smells mushrooms. Because like that was Farmer Maggot's little way of like.
I remember you.
Yeah, I remember you, motherfucker. I totally remember you.
But Farmer Maggot knows what's up. He's actually also friends with Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, Bombadil actually mentions him by name and has like clearly has an air of respect for the guy. He's like, this guy actually knows. And Maggot kind of watches over the eastern borders of the Shire to kind of watch all the comers and goers of the Shire.
So Farmer Maggot, another very important character who got completely shafted.
Shafted! Got some more hobbits coming up for you. This is the Cotton family.
All the cotton.
All the Cottons. So Tolman Cotton is the patriarch, and he has... so what he basically does is when they get back during the scouring of the Shire, Frodo, Sam, Pippin, and Merry are like, we gotta get rid of these ruffians, and like, this is bullshit. We need to take back our area. And Tolman Cotton's basically like, all right, we've been waiting for this, boys. And he just, he's like, this is the day we've been waiting for. And then like just musters all these hobbits with like knives and hammers and like hunting bows. And they go after, it's pretty great. And he's got 3 sons, Tolman Jr., Tom, who goes by Tom, Bowman, who goes by Nick, and Carl, who goes by Nibs. And he's got a daughter, Rosie Cotton. And you might know her because she marries Samwise. And they have 13 fucking children.
That's a bit much.
That's so many children. And that's how the testament to how big Bag End is. Because remember, they're living in Bag End. Because Frodo gives it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, 13 little hobbit children running around Bag End. Must be a huge place. Yeah, and so they're shafted because they're all cut out. Except for Rosie, who's still in the movie. But never actually speaks in the movie.
No, they never give her any lines. They have people talk to her, and she gives like smiling nods, but she never actually gets to say anything at all.
She's literally always smiling and nodding. Even when they show her at Sam's wedding,
yeah,
she's just like, I'm marrying Sam, hi.
Or later when they have kids, and it's like Sam at his house in the Shire, and she's like, oh, and he like greets her, and she doesn't do anything but like smile and nod at him.
Smile and nod. Rosie Cotton, shafted.
Shafted.
All right, now we're through with the hobbits that are shafted. Now we're gonna get into some elves, or at least an elf, whose name's Gildor and Glorian.
And Gildor is he's a pretty important character. He's a leader of a group of Noldor that Frodo, Sam, and Pippin meet on the road to on the road out of the Shire when they're on their way to Bree, right?
No, they're just on their way. It's like right on the borders of the Shire. It's just Sam, Frodo, and Pippin. And this is before they meet up with Merry.
Oh, gotcha. That's right.
Yeah, it's like almost immediately as they're leaving the Shire.
I'm already getting the book confused with the movie.
Right? Because, yeah. And so Gildor's the leader of a group of Noldor that are just hanging out, moving through the Shire. And he's actually of the House of Finarfin. And he came to Middle-earth under Finrod Felagund, who's one of our favorite characters.
He's one of the best Noldor.
And so they're walking through the woods and they're singing, and that drives off the Nazgul. And Frodo meets up with them. There's a kind of cool moment where we'll talk about this later in the thing where Frodo speaks to them in Quenya, and they're just like, "Damn, this hobbit speaks the High Elven tongue."
They call him Elf Friend after that.
Yeah, Frodo, elf friend. So yeah, he gives Gildor gives Frodo counsel,
Council.
And,
And a little bit of console.
and some console. They played PlayStation.
Yeah, they're little.
This was PlayStation 1 back then, guys.
He helped them out because they were being chased by the Black Riders. They didn't even know what they were at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Gandalf, the first time Gandalf kind of disappears and doesn't show up when he says he's going to, and he's a little worried.
There's one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the book is when he's talking to Gildor, and Gildor's basically like, "I know you haven't heard from Gandalf, so you can." He's like, basically the choice. What he says is like basically the choice to go or stay is yours. And Frodo responds that I remember Gandalf told me never ask counsel of the elves, for they will say both no and yes.
And Gildor laughs at him at that.
Yeah, and Gildor laughs. So
Ultimately, he does get out of Gildor some solid advice, though.
yeah, he gets some solid advice, and also Gildor is like, I'm gonna tell all the homies that y'all are on the road.
Yeah, he let everyone know on the way after they kind of split ways. Gildor let everyone know of importance that he saw that, hey, these hobbits, they're on the road, and
that's how like Bombadil finds out.
Yeah,
That's how Aragorn finds out. That's how Elrond finds out. That's how everybody finds out that they're on the move, essentially, and it's begun.
Mm-hmm.
The chase has begun. Yeah, and I'm assuming he also told them that they had Nazgul on their tail. Because that was the thing, too. Frodo asked him what they were, and he was basically too terrified to tell him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to tell you because you'll be too scared.
Yeah, Gildor didn't even realize the Nazgul were around.
Yeah.
And then he asked them about the Black Riders just now, and he's like, what? What do you mean? He's like, those Black Riders, and then all of a sudden Gildor gets very concerned.
Yeah, he's like, oh, the tone just shifts, and he's like, yeah. And yeah, Frodo actually, he asks him what, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you.
If you don't already know, he's like, I'll wait for Gandalf to tell you or something like that.
Because you'll be too terrified to go any further.
Right, this is a bad place to just now find out when you're like lost out in the woods at night.
Right. Yeah, so Gildor's completely cut out of the movie. They show the Noldor moving through the woods and singing.
In the extended edition,
edition.
There's a brief point where Sam and Frodo are set up camp somewhere in the Shire, and they hear singing, and they just see a parade of elves walking through the woods, and they just kind of look at it and observe and leave.
I do not remember if they're singing to Elbereth Githonio, because they are in the book. Because that's how Frodo knows they're high elves. Because Frodo's friggin' smart, man.
He is really smart.
And we'll talk about this later, because Frodo may or may not be on this list.
Spoiler alert, Frodo's totally on this list.
Spoiler alert, Frodo's totally on the list. So he's smart as hell. He hears them saying Elbereth Githonio, and he's like, oh, these are high elves. They're talking about Elbereth, the queen of the Valar. I know.
Yeah, he's all learned because he spent so much time with Bilbo.
And Bilbo's, yeah.
And if he didn't spend so much time with crazy Bilbo, might not have turned out that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the next character in the storyline is Tom Bombadil.
This is a big one.
This is a big one.
And this is where we got our excerpt from. If you guys didn't know that Tom in that story was Tom Bombadil, and he saves the hobbits from the Barrow Wraiths.
Yeah, at the Barrow Downs. They're barely, not far out of the Shire, and they're already running into some crazy stuff. They run into the Barrow Wraiths over at the Barrow Downs.
And then Old Man Willow's before that too. Remember?
Oh yeah.
That's where they first meet him.
That's where they first meet Tom Bombadil. They're going through the old forest and they get real lost and fucked up. And Old Man Willow literally tries to eat a couple of them.
Tries to drown Frodo in the river.
Yeah.
and tries to eat them, essentially. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Frodo gets woken up because he was all wet, and he starts running around freaking out, trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And then, lo and behold, he hears
Some singing.
some weird-ass singing off in the distance that almost sounds like gibberish, and then here comes fucking...
Either Tom Bombadil.
He just comes hippity-hopping down the fucking road.
And Bombadil, I think the reason why they cut him out is not only does the Bombadil parts not really have anything to do with the overall story, but they decided to cut out the Old Forest in general. So, I mean, obviously you're going to cut out Bombadil there.
Yeah, I mean, even in the books, people asked why he was still included in the final versions of the story, because he doesn't fit in very well.
He doesn't fit in. Like, nobody really knows.
With the story or even the general mythology of Middle-earth. He doesn't have a very good defined place.
No.
But I kind of love that because it just kind of continues to show how vast and just magical and unknown Middle-earth is supposed to be.
Yeah,
we don't know everything. There are still these crazy oddities like Tom fucking Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil,
and
whom the elves call
Goldberry.
Eldest,
Yeah, they call him Eldest, the one without a father.
Mm-hmm. And nobody knows. And what's really fucked up is there's a part in the book, guys, they cut this totally out. Obviously, Tom Bombadil's not in the movie. But there's a part where Tom Bombadil takes the ring from Frodo, just they're casually talking about the ring.
Yeah.
And he takes the ring from Frodo and puts it on his finger. It doesn't grow to fit his finger, too, which is weird because it normally does. And it also does absolutely nothing.
Right.
And he looks at Frodo and flicks it up in the air and laughs. Like the ring has zero effect on this guy.
It took them a second. In the book, they described it as like puts it on his finger, and they all just kind of stood there for a second. Then they realized that nothing was happening. They were like, wait, holy shit.
Yeah, holy shit, what's going on here? And they actually, in the Council of Elrond, which, spoiler alert, we're talking about that soon, too, in a future episode. Council of Elrond, they actually say, why don't we give the ring to Tom Bombadil? Because, nobody's going to fuck with him.
Right, and it seems to have no effect on him.
Yeah, and it seems to have no effect on him, no corruption over him. He'll just watch over it for the end of time. And they were like, I think it was Gandalf said, like, he's really not concerned about, like, anything at all.
Right. He's not the most trustworthy because it means nothing to him, and he might just lose it.
Yeah, he'll probably just fucking lose it. Or give it away, fucking lose it. Who knows? Because it's like shit like that's not important to Tom Bombadil.
And somebody brought up, too, that ultimately Tom Bombadil wouldn't be able to stop Sauron and his forces if they ever decided to come take it from him, like in full force.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he'd do a damn good job.
It's a good hiding place. I don't know if it's a good, like, fortification place, but it's a good hiding place, for sure.
But ultimately, they deemed that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. And so, therefore, he was completely cut from the film. Completely cut from the film.
Tom Bombadil and Goldberry?
And Goldberry. Yeah, his wife Goldberry.
Totally.
Totally cut out of the movie. The cool thing, though, is Tom Bombadil has some of the coolest lines. So they actually took some of Tom Bombadil's lines and they gave him to Treebeard. And he says a lot of them in the extended edition. My favorite is, they come with fire. They come with axes. Gnawing, biting, breaking, hack, and burning. That's a Tom Bombadil line.
Curse them.
Curse them. Destroyers and usurpers. Curse them. Yeah. We haven't seen that movie enough, I don't think. We think we should watch it again.
Yeah. We probably need to watch it a few more times just to get it down. That used to be a weekendly thing for me.
Oh, yeah. I used to, like, that was what I did. I didn't really do anything else. I would watch baseball and Lord of the Rings. That was all I fucking did. So, yeah, we're calling that one a big, fat, fucking Shafted. All right, guys. So Tom Bombadil is really the big one. A lot of you guys, when we asked, we posted on the Facebook page asking for your suggestions for Shafted characters.
Yeah, he was a big one that came up.
He was a big one. Everybody wanted Tom Bombadil. So we're going to actually end this. We're going to make this into a two-parter, guys. We're going to end this at Tom Bombadil. Because he's the favorite, and he's the big one.
There are definitely some other suggestions that people were throwing out there on the Facebook page. We definitely want to get to those, so we're just going to throw it out in a second episode.
If I'm not wrong, I think we're covering all the ones people told us to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure we are.
Yeah,
so we're good.
We went through all the suggestions, and then we added in plenty of our own.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for listening. This is Keep on Tolkien. I'm Danny J.
And this is Joel, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. And remember, as always,
keep on Tolkien.
Keep on Tolkien. Aure and Tulaba.